I'm today with my friend CJ, founder of Diamante. The deals are changing, the price is changing, so how do you deal with that?
So people are more focused. Like every founder believes, their project is one of the best.
Like every partner, you try to really align your interest. How important it is for you?
If you are partnering with someone, like make sure they have their foot in the game as well. If they don't, that means there is something pushing.
What it feels or what it means to have like your token being listed.
Just a day before listing, there were like lots and lots of emotions running through you. But after the listing, everything slowly started to perish up.
GM, that's my quant. I'm today with my friend CJ, founder of Diamante. How are you doing today?
GM, first thing, thank you for having me here.
Yeah, pleasure.
Yeah.
So we are in Dubai, it's token 49. So a bunch of events. We took some time to do a podcast because I think we have something very interesting to discuss. You recently listed, so you are building since quite some time. So you basically fundraise, build a product, build some product, keep still building some product. You had your token being listed, so your TG, listed on Bybit, Gate, and a few other centralized exchanges. And I think it's very interesting for people watching us to hear I don't know, the ins and outs about listings, market making, what's your how you live that, because I think it's something very not secretive, but kind of I would say stealth in crypto. So I think people wants to hear a few things about that and the truth.
The truth. Let's reveal the truth. So first of all, it has to be, very, very raw. And I'll try my best to make it very raw so that people understand what is the pain. And it's not only about the founders building, it's also about the people who are seeing the token listings on multiple centralized exchanges, right? So when you talk about listing a token, when you're building and the journey from building to listing, it's a completely different journey. So you have to switch your gears, right? It has a lots of ups and downs. You're continuously speaking with all the centralized exchanges, identifying the strategy. And the most important thing when you are doing a TG, it's all about the investors, the pressure that you get from the investors, because everyone wants the top centralized exchanges, right? Everyone is pushing for that. And as a founder, everyone dreams about it. It's like, you dream about a Bugatti or a Lamborghini. Everyone wants to get there, right?
For sure.
Everyone is like every founder in his dream is always about, okay, I've built for 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, and now it's my TG time and I'm going to be a millionaire. Right? The different thought process that comes to your mind, your team, the people who have helped you build, right? Those are the most important people. They have their own hopes as well. So very raw advice. Once you start your listing process with centralized exchanges, first of all, you need to calm down, right? Restrict your thoughts. Be very focused in terms of what you want to achieve. Right? Not exaggerate in terms of what you can overachieve. It's about keeping things simple, and it's about a process. You need to follow a proper process so that you reach your goals. And everyone, once you start, your journey for your listings, right? You're very happy about it when you start getting offers from centralized exchanges, or you start reaching out to them, conversations with their BDs, and this journey starts there. And what the first thing you do is you are very excited about it. You start speaking with your families, your investors, your team. Okay, we're getting listed, and that's the biggest trap, right? It takes time, it takes process.
How long have you started to chat with centralized exchanges before the TG? I would say 1 month, 2 months.
Almost 4 months.
4 months, okay, that's very cool. I think that's one of the because we advise a bunch of projects we see is too many founders last minute rushing on centralized exchange, few weeks before the listings, or even worse. And so you can't get the best deals, and also because centralized exchange now they take a bit of time to do the due diligence and everything. So most founders, they should anticipate a bit more. I think this is the thing you did the proper way, really anticipated quite a lot the listing phase. And then so how does it work to chat with centralized exchange about the listing? Because it's something always evolving. I think we all know that the deals are changing, the price is changing. So how do you deal with that?
So people are more focused about, every founder believes, their project is one of the best. Yeah, but you need to understand the market mechanics as well. what is the market demanding? What kind of project you are building? Is that the right situation for you to launch? Is that the strategy for the centralized exchanges to launch tokens on a project that you're building? What is the network that you're built on? Like how supportive is your network when you want to get listed? It can be a layer one. You can build a super layer one that is super efficient. But how easy it is for your token to get listed, because there is certain process where the centralized exchanges tech team will also take time for the integration, right? And just to add upon the last minute listing spree with and the talks with the centralized exchanges, even we had centralized exchanges conversations like even 6 hours before we are going TG, right? So then you have a bunch of centralized exchanges coming to you.
Very close to listing.
Yeah, very close to listing, because they hear the news, everyone talks as a small industry, right? And you are very overwhelmed by the response they are getting. And that's where most of the people would make mistake. More or less, we also, were into that trap to almost make mistakes, but we have very, very good advisors. And we also got very good advice from you.
Yeah, of course.
How to tackle that.
Yeah.
Because for all major, like 90% of the founders, it's their first change listing.
And I think the issue we see is like it's very hard for founders to understand. Like we know like Binance is a tier 1, we have tier 2s, tier 3s, but it's very hard for founders to have a clear view of like how much you pay for what you get and if it's the fair price at the given period of time, And so most of the time we have a super big lag of like founders being aware of like the prices of like listings that happened like 3 months ago, 6 months ago, but it's changing so fast, like the process and the teams, the listing teams and the prices. So that's why it's very hard to navigate. I would say, yeah.
And also, it's more important for the people who are taking part in the initial listing process of the exchanges. They are acquiring the tokens with the airdrops and everything. For everyone to understand, it's not an easy task. Like most of the people, when they are buying tokens on the retail side of it, if you have, let's say, a good tier 1, good tier 2 doing the listing, everyone feels, okay, this is going to go to the moon.
Yeah.
But more or less, that's not always the case. You need to understand the mechanics of the tokens. The tokenomics is very important. And crucially, to decide upon a tokenomics for any particular project, it's also a biggest pain. Then you have a bunch of advisors, bunch of advisory companies giving you advice on how to do your tokenomics. Then you start looking at different projects, what have worked for them, what have not worked for them. But you can never compare.
Yeah,
because 100%. The market is different, the condition 100%. Is different. Your project is different. So you need to be very, very honest in terms of what you have built, because you have honestly built a product for 1 year, 2 year, a good network, good products, you have good community. So you need to listen to what you have built and not listen to the noise around you.
Yeah, 100%. I think to bounce on that, first thing first, disclaimer, like everything we are saying is just our own opinion, not a financial advice, not, I don't know, like listing advice or whatsoever. But to bounce on what you just mentioned, I think it's one of the things like sometimes like we are getting mad about is like so many guys having a playbook that is like few years old and like trying to apply the same playbook years after that it worked. And market is changing so much. You have to adapt the market conditions, liquidity or not. How is the like BTC moving, TradFi, And that's the very hard part, I think, of a listing is like it's case by case. You have to have a unique playbook and really to have like the things that are tailored for your project. Otherwise, it can't work. Kind of. I have a question for you. What it feels or what it means to have like your token being listed?
Honestly, just a day before listing, there were like lots and lots of emotions running through you. But after the listing, everything, slowly started perishing because just the day of listing, after a few days, you just are always awake, looking at your token price, what is happening, what is going wrong, what is going right. But after a few weeks, you're more settled. Then you're back to the phase where you started to build, right? Because you are building something. The building is what you build for your community. Right? It's not about, you don't build to make your token appreciate.
Of course.
So then you start focusing on it. That's what happened to us as well, right? So it's a different experience. And when we talk about, the listing, the post-listing and the pre-listing kind of for the months, like a couple of months pre-listing and post-listing, that's when you lose your focus.
100%.
So we tried our best to stay focused when we did the listing. And I think more or less we had an average listing. I won't say it is a good listing. And by the way, it's very important, like to understand. It's easy to get advice. It's easy to give advice, but listen to yourself. Listen to your product that you have. You'll have bunch of advisors who are, maybe you'll get advice from people you have never listed the tokens. They are just, for example, your investors, your market makers, or your colleagues. They have never been through that journey. So importantly, listen to yourself, listen to the product that you have built, and that will give you the best direction.
I think one advice I have for founders is like, I see too many founders thinking like their project doesn't have a valuation until they have the TG date, and then they're like focused only on the valuation, Where I think it should be the opposite of like, you are very focused on the valuation of your company, trying to grow it, doing the smart, moves. And then when you get listed, it's more like the market deciding your valuation. And then you can't play against the market. If like liquidity is dry, if like cryptos are going down, it's very hard to it's like market is very correlated. So that's something very important I think to have in mind, is like being focused before TG on like your valuation, and then once you have TG, the market is deciding the valuation. So you just have to basically let it do its thing, keep building and keep iterating. I would say that's the most important part.
But one more thing I wanted to discuss here is like a lot of founders. When you talk about FDV and valuation, when they see the memes achieving the valuation like no other tokens, they think, okay, if this meme culture, meme tokens can achieve this valuation, we have built something that is very superior. But you need to understand the valuation is more or less kind of a supply and demand thing. And if the market is correlating with the meme culture, the supply is definitely there. If you have built a very like a super app, a super token, a super utility, you need to understand who is your audience, how much is the demand. Because if you go Web 2, Web 3, any industry, it's always about the supply and the demand.
100%.
So if you understand that, valuation is something that you can easily achieve and understand. You never overvalue yourself, never undervalue yourself. Whatever valuation you can keep, it doesn't make a difference. Like I mentioned, right? The market would decide your valuation.
100%.
And the market and the community are the honest people who will make sure you stay at your feet.
Yeah,
flying high.
I think that's the thing, is like people are comparing too much like utility projects and meme coins. And I think for meme coins, it's more organic and healthier because people are more focused on metrics that make sense when your project is listed, like number of holders, how is the active is the community, what's the mind share and everything. So that's why there is a big difference. And yeah, but I don't want to talk too much about meme coins, otherwise we'll fall in the pitfall and like keep talking for hours. One thing you said that is very interesting is about like, who do you listen to? And I think that's one of the biggest issue in crypto, is that it's very hard to, as a founder, having guys around you with an aligned interest, trying to align this interest, So we'll discuss a bit later on about market making and everything. What's your take on that? Like, have you been surprised by the industry, a negative way or a positive way? And how do you make sure, like, is it something very important, like every guys you like partner, you try to really align your interest? How important it is for you?
No, we have been very surprised, Before listing, when we are focused on building, and post listing, you get a reality check. Like Web3 is a very brutal industry.
Very brutal, yeah.
Very, very brutal. And you don't get that reality check until, you have it on your TG and you found your ground. Because every player in the industry, and that's how the industry should be, and that's how the industry should be focused on, and that's why the growth is there. Everyone is very brutal in terms of how much money they can put in their pocket. Right? It includes each and everyone. When you are very modest about it, and when you try to leverage your modesty, it never works.
100%, yeah.
So you have to be very true and modest as well, so that you realize what is in for you. If you are partnering with someone, like, you make sure they have their foot in the game as well.
100%.
If they don't, that means there is something fishy.
And I think it's one of the pitfalls of like founders in crypto or like projects in general, is like they rely too much on trust and not enough on reputation. Yeah. And I think crypto is a game of reputation, because like if you don't like a guy, you can easily, like explain why you don't like him, and then market decides, I would say. And we see too many founders like trusting guys who just like talk. But if they were checking the reputation of those guys, asking around whatsoever, they will have avoided so many mistakes. It's insane. And so that's why I think crypto is really like a reputation game more than a like a trust game where you have to trust your guy. Yeah, they will not sell, or like they will do that, or they have done that. Always, DIR, double check, and everything. Otherwise, like you could put yourself in a tough situation, And I think that's the thing we keep seeing of like founders being like not betrayed, because it's not the word, but like having some issues, or like trusting the wrong guys, or like being scammed or whatsoever. It's just like at some point they don't check the reputation of those guys, and they are not making sure that the interest is aligned and it's clear, and I think that's one of the most important thing in crypto. And these are like the things we have in Web2, but I don't know why in Web3 we perhaps because lack of maturity, I don't know. We don't have it, and also because like the cycle of like when you're a founder of like having your token is very very short, compared to if you go do an IPO, for example, on like in Web2, and so that's why like since I feel very few founders. That's why we're having this talk today, because like you are openly talking about it genuinely. Very few founders like explain what the bad things, or like the thing that they were like, I don't know, surprised about, or like they regret and everything, because they don't want to like showcase that, or like give a bad image, and like having then people saying, this happened, I'm selling, whatsoever. So I know it's very critical when you're a founder, like about that. But still, like if we want the industry to like get more mature and like like change like kind of like few things of like the same mistake like founders keep doing, and we often talk about them, right? Because now that you have listed, you are aware of a bunch of things, and I think many founders came to you to ask like, what's going on here, to get your input. So that's very interesting. Perhaps we can discuss a bit about market making.
Before that, I would like to add something.
Yeah, go ahead. Of course.
So when one thing what happens is when you talk about people coming to you and when you're openly speaking about something, people fall for lies more than the truth.
Yeah.
And in Web3, if you see every like even if you're on the street, you are just talking to someone, like if you say, okay, you're a founder of a token, if you're a founder of a Web3 company, everyone thinks you're a fucking millionaire, right? So that's the image that we have. And that's how everyone likes to project in the Web3 space, right? And that's why there is a pitfall.
Okay. That's your take on it. Okay.
Yeah,
okay.
It's easy. It's easy to fall for something.
Okay, that makes sense. I didn't saw that way. And so we discussed about listings, centralized exchange. Of course, there is so many things we can't reveal. I wish we could, but it's how it is, Perhaps we can chat a bit about market making, your own experience. How knowledgeable were you about market making before your TG, like weeks before, during your TG, and now? And what are like the key things you want to give to founders, or like anybody like in the space?
Very honestly, on a personal level, I didn't have that kind of a knowledge, maybe 10%, 20% of what market making is. We are just catching up, because when you're building something, you're so focused on the rest of the things that you're doing. But in our team, we have very good individuals who understand market making very, very well. So luckily, we got the support of the team, and that's how any project should proceed. Like the teamwork is the most important thing. So we already had an experienced team with expertise about market making that helped us to identify the right market makers. And market making, is all about, supporting the liquidity of your project. People always believe like market makers can change the market.
Yeah, they are making the market, but not the liquidity way, but the price way.
They take the actual meaning of it, like market making. Okay, they will pump your token. No, it's not like that.
Because marketing is on liquidity side, not price change side of things.
People think, okay, you have a good market maker, they're going to pump your price to like the moon. But they are just supporting the liquidity. So the perspective has to be very, very clear when you're talking about market making. And that's why the project needs to understand the treasury is very important, because before your TGE, you could raise fund. But the post TGE, you cannot raise funds. You cannot knock the VC doors because your token is already out in the market. So you need to maintain your treasury in a very, very proper way so that you can efficiently build, grow your team, grow your project. And that is the only way your investors are going to support you in the longer run. Your holders are going to support you in the longer run. And we learned it in a very, very easy way because, we had guys like you. But still, I have met a lot of founders. The tokens is like live since like 3-4 years, and they don't understand the term treasury management.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah.
And that's why people need to understand, if you have a proper treasury management, that would help you build really good things. That is definitely going to support you.
Yeah, I think very interesting what you mentioned, and I'm the truth is like, if you're a founder and you don't have anyone in the team genuinely knowing market making, like, not because the things like we see so many founders or like guys say, yeah, I'm not trading, I know trading, so they know market making. No, it's totally different. And market making in crypto is very different than market making in TradeFi, high frequency trading, all these kind of things, like very different sport. And if you don't have like a guy in the team knowledgeable about that, or a close advisor, like a guy that you have a lot of interest with, or you can vouch his reputation on, knowing market making, your project will fail 100%. And so that's why it's so important. And centralized exchange are like a first, I would say, problem to tackle, like to try to solve, and then market making is another one. So that's very interesting. And then you have, like, of course, treasury management is like a third very important part of the business. And now that your project is listed as a founder, do you see like new skills you want to work on, you want to develop, because your token is listed, so you have to better understand centralized exchange, market making, trading? What's your take on that?
So as a layer one, what we are building, so we are more focused on providing a more secure and efficient environment for projects to build on us. So we are like an app stores for the blockchains. Like, so people can come build on us, and more or less we see multiple layer ones out there in the market. Like, you have bunch of layer ones, but no one has asked an important question. Like, do we require so many layer ones? Because what if a project wants to shift from one layer to another layer? We talk about ILPs. People have been talking about ILPs. So it's providing an inclusive environment. That's what we have been doing since day one, to provide a more inclusive environment and a more secure environment. And the technology keeps on shifting. So you always have to be adaptive to the new techs coming in, right? You have to be prepared for that. And that's what we are providing to the projects that are building on us. And that's what makes us different, because we work on a very, very ground level. We understand the pain of the projects like who are building to, because you get thrown to multiple layer ones, where to build, where to deploy,
Of course, yeah.
how to build, right? And that is one of the case that we are like how we are working on the ground level. So we are doing during the token like a hackathon for more than 250 students in a couple of universities in Dubai. And we keep on doing hackathons. Last year we did almost 7 hackathons, where we are educating individuals at a very initial level of their life cycle to their career path, to make them understand what it is to build, how to build. And that's how we are different. People don't realize, if we are not empowering the next generations, it is something that's going to be a bigger threat, because they are going to be confused. So it's bad for the future of the industry.
Yeah, of course, makes sense. I like the vision. Yeah, it's very interesting. And so you haven't really answered my question. Now that you're a founder, like, anything you are following, you're doing that you were not doing before? I don't know, watching more macroeconomy, try to understand better the macro, trying to understand, I don't know, trading, I don't know, anything.
No, the one thing that after the launch, what we have been doing, we have changed the way how we are interacting with the project, right? In terms of the microeconomy, because we were very naive in terms of how we are interacting with the project, right?
Okay, that's interesting. Tell me more.
So that has changed a lot. Now it's all about value creation for the project as well as for the token and for the company. Right? It's not only about, because initially we are very focused on like getting like hundreds of projects on the ecosystem, but at what cost? Right? So is there like importance of just having the number of projects, or it's there importance of the on-chain data?
Quality over quantity,
yeah. It's also not about, it's not a question of quality or quantity. It's about how you support each other, right? Because we learned it in a very hard way, but I'm happy we learned it very earlier than late. And when you talk about the macroeconomics or microeconomics of the project, we have a definite team who definitely looks at all the things happening around all the economic models of the tokens and everything. But it is important to understand you are not building something for your TVLs. You're not building something for your FTVs.
Yeah, FTVs, yeah, of course.
Because people are always focused on getting those TVLs or FTVs,
Yeah,
the
100%.
token pumps, everything. But if you are in a game for a longer run, you always need to have sustainable growth. And we have seen, beautiful projects, beautiful tokens achieve it for a longer run.
Yeah, and so that's why, like, when you're a founder, you should, and depends if you're layer one, I don't know, like any type of project, but you should be focused on like writing those metrics that make sense for you. Like, is it the number of holders you have in your community? Is it like, I don't know, the impression on Twitter? Is it like how many projects are building on you? How many developers? How many, Git push? I don't know, like try to like get your hands on like dozens of metrics and try to make sure like you focused on that rather than being focused on like any like 1% price change on your token. I don't know, perhaps we can, I don't know if you have anything else to mention, but perhaps we can end on that. Or I don't know if you want to, I don't know.
Just end I would like to end with a question like, because you have been in conversation with hundreds and hundreds of projects, right? You guys, the famous French brothers, have taught me investments. That's what I've been doing since last few months, right? Identifying good projects, supporting them in whatever way possible. So what do you see the market wave right now in the current situation like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, we are in a phase of like people always like to talk about the cycle, bull market, bear market. I think with crypto right now, we are kind of in a neutral market. What I mean by that is like macro is just horrible, it's kind of like, I won't say like we're in this recession because it depends how you define it, but I think, it's been hard. We had like all the COVID money like getting so fast into the system, and now we are a bit like in PTSD with that, and it's pretty painful for like many people because like liquidity have been being drained out so fast, and has it been injected the proper way and everything anyway. The question is like, I think in crypto we are in a time where like if you're a founder, it's the best time to make sure like you can survive as long as possible, keep building, because you are basically like building the next like generation of projects. And the very important thing is like you can do whatever you want in terms of valuation or whatsoever. At some point, when the market is like dry, there is not much you can do. What you can do is like build. So that's why be focused on those metrics, not on your FDV, and try to win through like the product, the vision, the growth, all these kind of things, rather than on the FDV. And I'm a perma bull, so I'm an optimistic by nature. And I think that we live in a depth kind of like world. So in the end, who knows how the depth will pump or where it will pump more. But, I think you just have to wait for the liquidity to get back. And when the liquidity is back, this is where like things get, I would say, very hot. So I would say just keep building before the things get hot.
Happy to close on a positive note.
Yeah, of course, always optimistic by nature. And, we're in crypto because we are optimists, I think. So that's why we're here.
Yeah. Thanks for
thanks for having you, Jay. Take care.
Yes.